Welcome to On-Demand Module 3, Teaching Success with National Geographic Science for Florida, Grades 1 and 2. This is one of 6 on-demand modules to help get you started using National Geographic Science for Florida, which I will refer to as NG Science throughout the session. My name is Angela Terry, National Consultant for National Geographic Learning, and I will be your presenter for this session. As I said before, this is one of 6 on-demand training modules to help prepare you to use NG Science in your classroom. Hopefully, you've already completed Module 1, starting the year off right with NG Science. If not, you may want to stop this session and view it now. If you will be teaching kindergarten or 3rd through 5th grade, be sure to view those modules as well. If you will be using ExamView CD and/or NG Assessment, make sure to view Modules 5 and 6 to help get you started. In this session, we'll be taking a thorough look at the instruction in NG Science Grades 1 and 2. We'll begin by reviewing the NG Science student and teacher components. Then we'll get into the instruction for the unit launch and big ideas. Next, we'll take a detailed look at read informational text instruction, as well as the write and wrap-up section. And finally, we'll take a quick look at the NG Science assessment tools you'll have available for each unit. So let's begin with a review of the components you will receive for each unit. As a reminder, in Grades 1 and 2, all print components for each unit will be housed in a kit like you see here. All of your big books will be found here in the back of the kit. There's a drawer for storing all of your teaching material and extra big idea books, and all of the student books are here. There are 6 units each for 1st and 2nd grade. As you can see here, there are 2 units for each area of science: Earth, Life, and Physical. Each unit covers the next generation Sunshine State standards specific to that grade level. For each of these units, students will be working with a Big Ideas book, a science inquiry book which is meant to be used by small groups of students. They will also have access to 3 Become an Expert books per unit and 3 Explore on Your Own books per unit. These Become an Expert and Explore on Your Own books tie directly to the big ideas and are presented at 3 reading levels, allowing differentiation for students at all levels. Pause the session and take a few moments to explore the student components for your grade level. Once you are done exploring, just click the play button and the session will resume. As for teacher components, you will have 1 teacher's edition for each unit. The Big Ideas book and Big Idea cards will help guide your instruction for each unit. A Write About Science Big Book helps guide the writing instruction. You also have Learning Masters and assessment tools for each unit, which include an assessment handbook, an ExamView CD-ROM, and e-assessment, our online assessment tool. You will also receive a teacher demo kit that contains many materials needed to demonstrate each inquiry activity for that unit. Each unit also has its own complete science inquiry kit that contains a class set of most of the materials you need for each inquiry activity in that unit, but this is a separate purchase. Each unit in NG Science follows the same instructional path for 1st and 2nd grade. You'll always begin with the unit launch and setting up the science notebook. Then you'll work through the chapters using the Big Ideas book. The number of chapters varies for each unit. After the final chapter, students will read informational text before moving on to the write and wrap-up section. Now let's dive in and see what this instruction really looks like. For this session, I will be using Grade 1 Pushes and Pull unit as an example. But everything that I share will be applicable to all 1st and 2nd grade units. If you focus on the purpose of each lesson rather than the specific content, you will be able to easily apply what you learn to the unit students you are working with because each unit follows the same pattern. The unit launch connects what students are learning to real scientists who are working out in the field. You'll begin each unit by introducing the students to the scientists and sharing the Think Like a Scientist quote. Share the key information about the video from the Teacher's Edition, then watch the video with students. There are discussion questions provided in each Teacher's Edition. And the last step of the unit launch is to send home the Science at Home letter, so students can share what they are learning with their family. After the unit launch, it's time to dig into the Big Ideas content. Each unit will begin with an Explore activity. As a reminder, the Module 1 on-demand training, Start the Year Off Right with NG Science for Florida, includes a detailed description of each level of inquiry. Be sure to watch it before you begin using NG Science if you've not already done so. Following the Explore activity, each chapter begins with the same 2 lessons. The first one is Lesson 2A, Big Ideas and Vocabulary Card. Begin by tapping into students' prior knowledge, including a quick review of the unit launch video. Then use the front of the Big Ideas card to introduce the Big Idea question. Differentiated instruction is provided in the bottom of the teacher wrap to help English learners at proficiency levels as they discuss the big ideas. Using the back of the card, it's time to teach the content vocabulary. When teaching vocabulary, whether it be content or process words, you'll always use the same routine. Pronounce the word, explain its meaning using the photo and definition provided, and encourage elaboration. As you can see, prompts for elaboration are already built into the Teacher's Edition for each word. NG Science also provides learning masters for students to practice the new vocabulary, and these can be added to the Science Notebook. The next lesson that is always the same in each chapter is Lesson 2B, the Interactive Read Aloud. The lesson begins with the introduction of the Big Ideas book, which involves discussing the cover, introducing the author, and introducing the Big Idea question for that chapter. Use the front flap of the Big Ideas book to introduce the first Big Idea question. The number of questions on the flap indicates how many chapters there will be in each unit, as each chapter covers one Big Idea question. Then, use the flap side to preview the vocabulary for the chapter. As you can see, the word, pictures, definitions, and the page on which the word first appears are provided for each key science vocabulary word. The next step is to preview the contents of the Big Ideas book and let students know what they will be learning about the Big Idea question for the current chapter. Now it's time to read the chapter aloud to familiarize students with the chapter content. You will read through each chapter without interruption before getting into the teacher wrap instruction. And don't worry, you don't have to do both readings on the same day. In the bottom of the teacher wrap, you will have reminders of the digital library and integrated technology options found on myngconnect.com. The next lesson in the unit introduces students to what they will be reading about in the Big Ideas book. This lesson begins with background building and setting a purpose for reading. Next, use the instruction to teach different key lessons to prepare students for the reading. This may include teaching different text features or specific science content as you see here. There are also opportunities to record information in their science notebooks. You'll see references to Science in a Snap throughout the chapters as well. Science in a Snap are quick activities that you can use to help your students understand the science concept at hand without getting materials out of the kit. In 30 seconds or less, you have an activity that is ready to go and engaging as well. Science in a Snap activities are found in the student inquiry books. Now it's time to focus on the big idea question and get students motivated to read more about it. The lesson starts with tapping prior knowledge and focusing on the big idea, then moves to teach academic vocabulary and identify and describe or demonstrate the meaning. Before moving on to the reading, a Before You Move On reminder is provided to you to help assess students' understanding on what's been covered so far. Differentiated instruction provides language support for English learners at all proficiency levels as they discuss the big idea. Now it's time to focus on the reading and the instruction in the teacher wrap. Remember, we have already read through the chapter once without interruption, so now it's time to use all of the supports provided to teach the content. As you work through the program, you'll notice that each lesson follows the same pattern. Introduce, teach, before you move on, then introduce, teach, and assess. Pause the session and take a few moments to look through the remaining pages of the chapter you're exploring and identify a few teaching supports. Stop when you reach the conclusion and review page. Once you are done, just click the play button and the session will resume. Now that you've had some time to explore on your own, I'd like to point out a few key features I hope you've discovered. First, I've already shown you a few opportunities for differentiating instruction, but as you can see, additional differentiated instruction is provided for students who need extra support and for those who need a little bit more of a challenge. Raise Your PsyQ is an opportunity to raise the bar a little and share some additional information with your students as it relates to the content they are studying. Note-taking opportunities are also identified at point of use. This is a great time for students to add what they're learning to their science notebooks. Science misconceptions are provided to clarify things students and sometimes even teachers may have misconceptions about. Math and science references provide an opportunity to think like a scientist in relation to math. And Extend Learning does just that, provides an opportunity to extend what the students are learning. After you've completed all chapters in the unit, the last lesson is the conclusion. Here, students will sum up the big ideas by reading a conclusion and matching the information to each big idea question. Next, students will discuss the big ideas after writing about what they've learned in their science notebooks. A review of the science academic vocabulary is provided in the teacher wrap, which is another opportunity for students to use their science notebooks. And this is also the time to assess students on the content. At the end of each unit, following the conclusion lesson, students sum up what they've learned with a song. The songs are set to common tunes, and if you aren't sure what they are, an MP3 is available on myngconnect.com. The song helps students review the unit vocabulary, the big idea questions, and provides opportunities for students to develop their own interpretations of the song. Now that we've looked at the instruction for the unit launch and the chapters, let's move on to the blue tab, Read Informational Text. This section focuses on connecting science and literacy and helps students move deeper into the content at their own instructional level. Connecting science and literacy is a key aspect of the National Geographic Science Program. There is a synergistic effect of learning science content through informational text literacy activities. The end result is that both science content and reading and writing skills improve. Teaching students reading comprehension strategies can help them access science content and support their scientific inquiries. National Geographic Science focuses on 4 key reading comprehension strategies. Before and during reading, students preview and predict by looking over the text, forming ideas about how the text is organized and what it says, and confirming ideas about how the text is organized and what it says. Students monitor and fix up during reading by thinking about whether the text is making sense and how it relates to what they already know, and identifying and clearing up comprehension problems. During reading, students also make inferences by using what they know to figure out what is not said or shown directly. And after reading, students sum up what they've learned by pulling together the text's big ideas. Each of these strategies is taught using a 5-step gradual release instructional model. Based on a gradual release of responsibility, teachers initially assume all of the responsibility for using a particular strategy. Then they fade out as students fade in and assume responsibility for using the strategies. The first step is to describe the strategy by explaining what the strategy is and when and how to use it. Step 2 is to model the strategy, showing students how to use the strategy by talking aloud as you read. Next, collaboratively use the strategy by working with students to jointly apply the strategy. Step 4 is to guide application of multiple strategies. This is where we gradually release responsibility to small groups of students as they use the new strategy along with other strategies they have learned. And step 5 is to support independent application of multiple strategies. Continue releasing responsibility to students as they use strategies they have learned when they are reading independently. As I mentioned, the 5-step model is a gradual release model. The first 3 steps are meant to be delivered in a whole group setting. Step 4 is meant to be small group instruction using the Become an Expert books. And Step 5 is meant for independent practice using the Explore on Your Own books. There is a 1-page mini lesson to teach each strategy using either the Big Ideas book or one of the Become an Expert books. Here, at the top of the page, you will see which book should be used for the mini lesson. Each mini lesson takes you through steps 1, 2, and 3 of the 5-step model. You may choose not to teach all of these mini lessons for each unit. You can teach one or more of the mini lessons depending on the amount of time you have and the needs of your students. Step 4 of our 5-step model is guiding students' application of multiple strategies as they read their Become an Expert books. The Become an Expert books repeat the same big ideas and academic vocabulary from the Big Ideas book and provides students an opportunity to reinforce and expand what they learned in the Big Idea books. The Become an Expert books allow students to read about a particular topic at their instructional reading level. Become an expert, then come back to the whole group to share and compare as the expert on their topic with other groups. There are low, medium, and high Become an Expert books for each unit as indicated by the color coding and rectangles. You can group your students by reading level, interest, or mixed collaborative groups. These leveled books are carefully crafted with exceptional photography and design that you would expect from National Geographic, and they also can be used in the language arts block for science reinforcement. Your teacher's guide includes detailed instruction for each Become an Expert book, and it includes previewing the table of contents, reviewing the academic vocabulary, and opportunities to add to the science notebooks. Then you'll move on to accessing the science content. Notice the reading strategies are built in right along with the science content instruction, and opportunities to assess are also included. Differentiated instruction options are provided here as well as making real-world connections. Students also focus on different text features. After students have read their Become an Expert books, they will then share and compare what they learned with others in class by turning and talking, reading, writing, and/or drawing. This is a great opportunity to have students use their science notebook and/or myngconnect.com digital library to find pictures or video clips to help them share more about their new area of expertise. At the very end of the Become an Expert books, students have the opportunity to read about different science careers. You'll notice that these are the scientists that they've seen throughout the unit, beginning with the unit launch video. And finally, Step 5 of the Read Informational Text model asks students to independently use multiple strategies. They will apply these strategies using the Explore on Your Own books. These books are written at an independent reading level for students, but students may want to select more interesting ones despite its readability. Each Explore on Your Own book focuses on one big idea and includes 1 to 2 vocabulary words covered in the Big Idea books and Become an Expert books. They are fresh, fun, and engaging for students, and the content has compelling visuals, great storytelling, and many times a celebration of culture. They allow students to practice what they've learned previously as they continue to unlock the big ideas of science. Pause the session and take a few moments to explore the Read Informational Text section. Can you see how this additional reading provides an opportunity to deepen students' science content knowledge even more as they focus on one big idea? Remember, once you are done, just click the play button and the session will resume. We'll begin with the writing instruction now. First, students will learn about the genre of writing they will be doing. This will be either nonfiction narrative, expository, persuasive, or procedural writing. Then, using the Write About Big Book as a read aloud, you will do a first reading focusing on the science content and a second reading focusing on the genre and writer's craft. After the readings, students will work on their writing projects. Let's begin with the writing instruction. First, students will learn about the genre of writing they will be doing. This will be either nonfiction narrative, expository, persuasive, or procedural writing. Then, using the Write About Big Book as a read aloud, you'll do a first reading focusing on science content and a second reading focusing on the genre and writer's craft. After the readings, students will work on their writing projects. In teaching the genre, you'll cover the author's purpose, 1 or 2 text structures, and a text feature. The read aloud begins with an introduction and an opportunity to tap students' prior knowledge, then instruction is provided for both reading purposes. When the reading is complete, students begin their writing projects. There are a few options to choose from. Finally, it's time for the unit wrap-up, and this will either be a whole group or small group activity. Pause the session and take a few moments to explore the Write and Wrap-Up section. Do you see how National Geographic Science provides opportunities for students to develop their scientific writing? Remember, once you are done, just click the play button and the session will resume. Now that we've seen how the big ideas are taught, let's take a look at the tools you'll have available to assess students' learning. National Geographic Science offers frequent, varied assessments that are aligned to Florida's next generation Sunshine State standards for science. With National Geographic Science assessments, you can easily monitor students' progress toward understanding the big ideas of life, Earth, and the physical sciences. We'll begin with the Science Assessment Handbook. The assessment handbook for each unit includes chapter tests, unit tests, unit self-assessments, and benchmark tests. The National Geographic assessments have been designed so that frequent, varied assessment informs instruction every step of the way. The assessment handbook also includes inquiry rubrics and inquiry self-reflections to assess students' performance on inquiry activities. All of these tools are also available to you on myngconnect.com. As you assess your students, it's important to track exactly which next generation Sunshine State standards they are mastering. You can do this by using the tracking tools available in each assessment handbook. There is a student profile and answer key sheet for each chapter test and each unit test. You can keep track of all test scores using the class profile sheet for each unit. Let's look at a couple of quick examples. Once your students complete the chapter test, use the student profile and answer key sheet to record their progress. As you can see here, the answer key is provided right on each student's profile sheet. In this example, all of the questions are rubric-based, so the rubric for each item is provided as well. Once you've completed the first part of the profile sheet, you'll move on to the second page, which will show you exactly which next generation Sunshine State Standard benchmarks the student has mastered and which ones they may need a little more practice with. In this example, it's clear that Marco needs to continue to work on keeping records as appropriate, or benchmark SC 1.N.1.3. For each unit test, you will complete the same type of profile sheet again. You'll be able to easily identify the next generation Sunshine State Standards benchmark each student still needs to practice with. In first and second grade, you also have a few additional assessment resources. You can use the ExamView CD to customize chapter and benchmark tests by selecting or adding items. And students can take the test online with e-assessment, which also provides automated scoring and reporting. These reports give you the same information we just looked at the student profile sheets from the assessment handbook, but with e-assessment, all of the work is automatically done for you. How easy is that? Congratulations! You have almost completed this on-demand module for NG Science. In this session, we started off by briefly reviewing the program components before taking a detailed look at the instructional design of each unit, including the unit launch and big ideas instruction. We then looked at the read informational text and write and wrap-up section. And finally, I shared the assessment tools you will have available as the unit wrap-up. Here are some next steps to think about before viewing your next session. View the unit launch videos on myngconnect.com to become familiar with the scientists. Study the instruction for your next unit, and plan some time to view the remaining on-demand modules related to your grade level. Also, please take a moment to complete the test on the next slide in order to receive continuing education credit for this course. You have now completed this Florida National Geographic Science On-Demand module. Upon closing this window, your completions results will appear. Don't forget to check the Attachments tab on the left side of the screen for directions on how to submit your continuing education credit request.